Well, as the world marks International Women's Day today, UN Women a report examining the gaps in implementing Sustainable Development Goals. The 6 suspects arrested in connection with the Ngobo police station attack in the Eastern Cape will appear at the local magistrates court this morning. And SASA, together with the South African Post Office, will brief the media about their state of readiness for the direct payment of grants and millions of receipts from the 1st of April 2018. And that being said, a very good morning to you. It's just gone 9 a.m. We're coming to you live from Johannesburg. This is Newsroom. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Shante Yankees. A lot coming up between now and 12 p.m., including the latest on the SASA CPS contract. We'll also be going live to Cape Town, where the 17th World Tobacco and Health Conference is taking place. Those stories coming up, but first, let's have a look at your top story. Your lead story at the top of the hour is 6 suspects arrested in connection with Ngobo police station attack in the Eastern Cape are expected to appear at the local magistrates court today. Well, the suspects briefly appeared in court last week for the murder of 5 police officers and a soldier. 3 of them indicated that they would be applying for bail, while the other 3 preferred not to seek bail. They were arrested following a gun battle with police at the Mangoba Seven Angels Ministries Church about 2 weeks ago. Well, over the weekend, some of the victims were laid to rest. Another 2 officers will be laid to rest this coming weekend. Well, the Eskom inquiry has scheduled to call the Gupta brothers, Duduzane Zuma, Salim Essa, Eric Woods, Dudu Myeni, and Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba next week. The tempers flared yesterday as former Eskom board chairperson Dr. Ben Ngubane got into a heated exchange with members of parliament. Ngubane was being grilled about his impressions on the looting of state resources in the face of abject poverty in the country. He was asked why the Eskom board controversially approved a 30 million rand golden handshake for former Eskom CEO Brian Molefe. Ngubane told the inquiry that the Eskom board chair did everything according to the book, including the sale of Optimum Mine to the Gupta-owned Tegeta Resources. He also refused to answer some of the questions put to him, saying the truth will be revealed by the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. The inquiry continues today. Well, more details are being confirmed by Indian authorities following raids on properties of the Gupta brothers. Income tax officials have said that they received specific intel on the temple that the Guptas are building in Saharanpur. The temple is spread on a huge piece of land, and an investment over 15 million rands has been made into the project, but estimates that the locals put the number at 76 million rand. SABC News earlier spoke to our India correspondent Neha Punya, who gave us more details.
It's been about 2 days since the raid first began at Gupta properties in India, and slowly and steadily more details are trickling in. What we're learning is that possibly at the center of this investigation by income tax officials and the enforcement directorate officials is a massive temple that the brothers are building in Saharanpur in memory of their father. Now, when SABC visited Saharanpur last week, we saw the temple complex. It's been under construction for 3 to 4 years. And locals estimate the total amount of investment in that project is $76 million. And they're saying that all of this money has been put into this project by the Gupta brothers. And the suspicion is this money possibly came through Dubai, and officials are now trying to ascertain what was the exact route that this money took to come into India and what was its source.
Yeah. Let's talk about the whereabouts of the Guptas. Any news and updates on this?
The Guptas were spotted in India in February last, and ever since locals, at least in India, have not heard about their whereabouts. But some of their family friends have told me that they suspect the brothers and their extended family is in Dubai. That's the place that the Guptas have zeroed in on many years ago to slowly move their operations from South Africa. So the family, friends, relatives I spoke to, they're telling me that it's quite possible that the Guptas are currently in Dubai.
Yeah. There's also the very big story that we saw coming out that India's elite enforcement directorate officials were part of this. I know that you reported quite extensively on this, that their home in Saharanpur was raided, other properties as well. Any updates with regard to this, and how significant is this to the investigation taking place in South Africa?
I think it's quite significant because so far, ever since the talk of state capture began in South Africa, there was very little attention being paid to the Guptas here in India. They would come 3 to 4 times every year. Their visits would go on as per routine. They were never intervened or stopped by any authorities. But now you're finally seeing some sort of investigation. Of course, the actual nature of that investigation has not been revealed by income tax officials. They're only speaking of specific intelligence they received with regard to money that the Guptas have pumped into their hometown of Saharanpur. But the fact that it is happening at the same time that South Africa is in a sense tightening the screws on the Guptas, that's quite significant.
Yeah, and just finally, I mean, if any wrongdoing is found, because I imagine that this is really just to determine whether there has been an illegal inflow or outflow of money from another country into India, this could also place them under arrest in Indian law. Is that correct, if it is found to be the truth?
That's right, and this all depends, like you said, on the Enforcement Directorate probe, because that's the agency in India that probes financial crimes and looks into money laundering, and that's quite a serious offense as far as Indian law is concerned. And at a time when the nationality of the brothers is under question, when there are questions being raised about which country they belong to, if they are found in India at a time when there is incriminating evidence that the officials can put together, then that would be very problematic for the Guptas.
Well, SASA, together with the South African Post Office, will brief the media about their state of readiness for the direct payment of grants to millions of recipients from the 1st of April 2018. Well, SASA has less than a month to fully migrate core components of the grants scheme from cash paymaster services as ordered by the Constitutional Court to SAPO as agreed to in December 2017. The Constitutional Court heard on Tuesday that SASA did not have alternative plans if the court refused to extend the CPS contract by another 6 months. The agency had argued that about 2.8 million beneficiaries would not get their grant payments if the contract with CPS was not extended. The contract expires on the 31st of March 2018. Well, 2 SAPS employees at the Midrand police station have been charged with bringing police into disrepute. One of them has also been served with a suspension letter and placed on special leave. This after SABC News senior reporter Griselda Lewis uncovered through telephone recordings how an assault complainant was threatened with the beating when she called to make inquiries about her case.
Disgraced and bringing the police service into disrepute. 2 SAPS employees at this police station are now in hot water.
It could get worse.
This after a recording by an assault complainant, Krina Peter, who was sent from pillar to post on several occasions when she called to follow up on her case. And even later, threatened by the very police.
I said to you, what happens next? Which is a question that I would like to know.
I'm telling you that why you don't want to listen to me, then we'll answer after.
Wow, I'm listening to
that
you.
That means I can't help you. You want me to help you, or you want to insult me?
I'm not.
Then I'll assault you also.
The new police minister shocked.
Yeah, it is a really sad day for the South African police, no doubt about it.
And now action swiftly taken.
One of those members who we have viewed to have conducted herself in a more serious manner than her colleague, has been served with a suspension notice. We have given her a suspension notice for which she is allowed to respond within 48 hours and provide reasons as to why she shouldn't be suspended. But in the meantime, she's also been put on special leave.
This police watchdog statistics paint a grim picture. During the last 2 years, an alarming number of cases have been reported against police. And assault tops that list. While this is just but one case involving Krina Peter, But the question is, how many more others are there? Criselda Lewis, SABC News in Johannesburg.
Well, today is International Women's Day, and South Africa joins the international community in observing the day under the theme Press for Progress. President Cyril Ramaphosa has called on all South Africans to use International Women's Day to decide what they can do in their personal lives, communities, businesses and organizations to advance all aspects of gender equality. The UN will mark the day with an official commemoration under the theme "The Time Is Now, Rural and Urban Activists Transforming Women's Lives."
Same with the mining charter.
It's a busy time at UN Women's headquarters in Manhattan, just days ahead of the opening of the annual Commission on the Status of Women next week, with final touches being made to the program for one of the agency's flagship events.
The theme which combines the support and the empowerment of rural women and activism, which may be anywhere in the world, maybe in the urban areas, but the link that we're making is to ensure that wherever we take critical action, whether we are in Hollywood or we are in Johannesburg or we are in Dubai, you have to think about the impact that you can make on those that are left behind.
Thursday's event brings together rural women working in the field and some of Hollywood's A-listers, including Oscar winner Reese Witherspoon and Zimbabwean-American Black Panther star Danai Gurira, as UN Women seeks greater solidarity to empower rural women who are being left behind.
This can be Hollywood for Hollywood. Me Too, Time's Up has to be about how we change things for women everywhere. It has to be an injury to one is an injury to all approach. And therefore, we're bringing rural women and the issues that they bring with them into the center stage.
Report examining the gaps in implementing the Sustainable Development Goals, as the World Bank warns that at the current pace, it will take 100 years to achieve equality between men and women.
Report a couple of weeks ago titled Turning Promises into Action, really looking at the gaps that exist on the ground in terms of implementing the SDGs adopted in 2015. What is it that governments and businesses can do right now?
Countries can work in a coordinated way to target the areas that need attention most. For instance, countries pass laws. We still have countries, 49 countries, that do not have legislation that criminalizes rape and having sexual relations with a minor. In fact, if you marry a minor that has been your rape victim, you are forgiven for the crime. Now, that is a problem, and we are addressing that, and we cannot do that alone. We need member states to be partners to address that.
Women's empowerment offers South Africa's transformative agenda a unique opportunity.
Going to be going the radical economic transformation, as well as a land reform in a drastic and in a radical way. Women, young people need to be in front, because that would equal real radical transformation. In reviewing the mining charter, learning from the mistakes of the past, knowing that the mining industry is a rural industry, because mining happens in the rural area. This is a significant opportunity also to support economic empowerment. So yes, we have challenges, but these are opportunities that we have through these new and contemporary policies that we're dealing with.
And of course, dealing with the economic impact on women, the question of economic equality for women will have a further impact in the realization of all the other SDGs, not so?
Of women in economies is one missing link, is one missing driver for inclusive and sustainable growth.
Is you for the rest of the year.
As we conclude, she shows me the wall in her office that displays the planning calendar of important dates and trips to countries where the women's cause is severely under threat.
When you go on somewhere, you go there and you solve a problem and you get satisfied. There's a lot of defeat in this job, a lot of defeat, and it weighs on you.
Ricebees, SABC News, New York.
In relation to that, our question of the day, we're asking you, what does International Women's Day mean to you? You can send us your comments on at SABC Newsroom, and we'll have a look at your tweets throughout the course of the morning. In some other news, South African actress Nomzamo Mbatha has challenged Africa's private sector to pull together resources and help alleviate suffering in refugee camps in Kenya. She's been on a week-long tour of Kakamuma refugee camp in Kenya. Nomzamo, who is also a UN Refugee Agency Goodwill Ambassador for the fundraising campaign, dubbed Lukuluku, said it rests upon the continent's business people to fill the funding gap needed to help those displaced by war. She spoke to our East Africa correspondent Sarah Kimani in Nairobi.
The Kakuma refugee camp in the northwest of Kenya, home to just about 200,000 refugees from South Sudan, Ethiopia, Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo, Nomzamo Mbatha easily blends into the community, spending time with the refugee children inside a crowded classroom.
How are you today?
Stopping at a watering point in one of the settlements before finally settling down for a conversation on life in the camp. The stories here are heartbreaking.
Like back in South Sudan, you cannot sleep the whole night.
Because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They speak of the violence, they speak of the rape, they speak of having to fend for themselves, they speak of having to walk. They speak of having to leave their families behind, because when conflict happens and the crisis happens at that very moment, everyone separates, everyone scatters. But the most powerful thing is that everyone knows where to go for refuge. And that is, where's the nearest camp? From your village.
The ongoing conflict in neighboring South Sudan has seen the camp receive hundreds of new arrivals daily, most of them unaccompanied children. The overcrowded classrooms here are evidence of the needs of the refugee community in Kakuma.
5,000 unaccompanied minors. Imagine that number in your head. Unaccompanied, no parents. They are children. And all they know is that we need to run.
There has been a steep fall in donor funding to the camps. Last month, the United Nations Refugee Agency made a global appeal of $3.2 billion to assist both the internally displaced persons and the refugees who are sheltering in neighboring countries. The 2017 appeal was only 33% funded.
So do we want books? Yes? Yes. We want pens to write?
The shortfall in funding has forced the UN to cut down on services offered to refugees. The UN is now casting its funding net wider, seeking the involvement of the everyday African and the private sector in bridging this gap.
There's so many European private sector funders building schools in the refugee camps. I want to see African private sectors building schools in the refugee camps.
Nomzamo hopes her time in Kenya will shift focus to Africans seeking solutions to their own problem in pushing for an end to the continent's long-running conflicts and getting Africans to stop the exodus from the continent by war-weary Africans.
Can we not fight each other? Can we fight for a better cause? And that is to change the narrative of the African. Let us change the narrative of the refugee.
Until then, the Lukuluku campaign continues. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kenya.
Bye, guys. Bye.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
Yes, yes.
Sports Live every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
News at 9. We go beyond the headlines of the day's breaking news to bring you all the angles and in-depth analysis of stories. We go beyond the surface, including on how it will impact your life. Join us every day at 9 to zoom in on the day's big stories.
Welcome back. Well, today is International Women's Day. The United Nations Commission on the Status of Women says this year the Women's Day comes on the heels of unprecedented global movements for human rights, equality and justice. We asked women what this day means to them.
Being a woman means being empowered. It means believing yourself, doing whatever you believe in, and not only for your benefit, but for the benefit of other women as well.
Being a woman today means living true to my values and being empowered as a woman to create change.
Being a woman is interesting but challenging. The challenging part is you have to multitask as a mother, a wife, and a career woman.
You must never give up on yourself. Know that you will make mistakes, you will rise.
Don't ever allow anyone to tell you that you do not have what it takes to win.
Well, the question that we're asking you today is, what does International Women's Day mean to you? You can continue to send us your comments on @SABC Newsroom. Let's have a look at some of the tweets that have already come through this morning with regards to the importance of Women's Day. Talwa says, I respect women, so International Women's Day means everything to me, and happy Women's Day to all women. Raymond says, for me, Women's Day means respect, equality and love. Happy Women's Day to all mothers, sisters and daughters. Let's have a look at our poll question of the day. We're asking, have you registered to vote? Yes or no? Well, 43% of you are still saying no. 57% of you are saying yes. Just over 290 votes coming in. Let's have a look at your reasons why you have not voted. Of course, yes, coming in from Tabo, but I will have to go and check my name on the weekend. #IEC. Morris says, no, but I will do it this weekend for the Commander-in-Chief. Make sure that you register to vote, and of course a happy International Women's Day to everybody. Let's have a look at what's taking place now online on our Facebook page this morning. Of course on SABC Newsroom, if you search for us. Today, women are statistically far more likely to donate a kidney to a partner than receive one. Well, this is according to a study released today to coincide with the World Kidney Day and International Women's Day. And then the Metro Rail Gauteng has condemned an attack on 4 staff members at a Pretoria station yesterday. A train driver, a train guard, security guard and a customer service official were attacked by a group of angry train commuters who also stoned the windscreens of trains servicing the Mamelodi corridor route launched earlier last year. And finally, land that was dispossessed from the Double Drift community in the Eastern Cape has now been returned. The community was dispossessed as a result of the 1913 Land Act to make way for a game reserve. Or you can simply search for SABC Newsroom on Facebook. Follow us and interact with us. Let's have a look now at what's making headlines front page and centre on your newspapers in the continent this morning. We'll start off here at home in South Africa. The Sowetan is reporting that Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba yesterday failed to attend oral question sessions with MPs due to an illness. In Zimbabwe, the Chronicle says 2 members of the Bilabusi family in Matabeleland, South Province, have died, while 6 others have been hospitalized after consuming poisonous mushrooms, bringing to 13 the number of mushroom deaths in just 9 days. And finally, in Namibia, the Namibian reports that analysts expected the 2018-2019 national budget to provide for a lower deficit and faster fiscal consolidation as a result of improved government income. Let's have a look at what we can expect coming up after the break. Well, more than 2,200 people made the Forbes 32nd annual ranking of the world's richest billionaires with a combined wealth of $9.1 trillion. This and more when we come back.
SABCnews.com is your one-stop digital portal to all the news you need. With a website that is easy to use on mobile, SABC News prides itself in being the primary source of public service content across multiple platforms. Watch live streams of all the big news events on the SABC News YouTube channel, which is one of the most viewed South African YouTube channels globally. And catch up on the best of SABC television and radio news. Follow breaking news on all of the SABC News social media platforms, interact with SABC News on Facebook, and stay connected on Twitter for the latest headlines and real-time updates by our reporters. SABC News, everywhere.
Welcome to Media Monitor, the show that analyzes the big news stories that made headlines. We bring you robust discussions on stories that made headlines in the week, where we interact with media analysts to unpack these top stories. Join me every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 Central African Time as I bring you riveting news and analysis.
Stay tuned to Media Monitor every Sunday from 9 a.m.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
Well, 3 suspects believed linked for last month's shooting of a police officer in KwaMapumola have been killed in a shootout with police. Tension is mounting in Zimbabwe as the governing party, ZANU-PF, fights for survival. Vote counting is underway in Sierra Leone, where more than 3 million people are eligible to choose a new president, parliament and local councillors. In your lead story at the half hour, 3 suspects believed to be responsible for the shooting of a police officer in KwaMapumola outside Stanger were killed during a shootout with police last night. Well, Captain Dubisa Mintlanzi was killed during a robbery at a shop 2 weeks ago. Well, National Police Minister Becky Cele had vowed that the police would leave no stone unturned in the hunt for the killers. The police investigation led them to the KwaMashu hostel where the men were hiding. It's alleged that the suspect shot the police, who then returned fire, killing the 3 instantly. Efforts to regulate and control tobacco use globally are taking center stage at a three-day conference in Cape Town. Some 2,000 delegates, which include policymakers, health professionals and researchers from over 100 countries, are joining forces at the 17th World Conference on Tobacco or Health to focus on tobacco control policies. The theme of the conference is Uniting the World for a Tobacco-Free Generation. SABC News reporter Zandile Mieza has more for us in Cape Town. Very good morning to you, Zandile. Also a very happy International Women's Day to you. Can you give us all the details that's happening in Cape Town this morning?
Yes, a very good morning to you too, Shante. The issues around the economic and public health impact of tobacco use have been dominating talks here in the mother city's ICC. And so far, South Africa has positioned itself quite decisively on some of these issues. However, as you've already mentioned, it is International Women's Day. And what is set to dominate talks today and take center stage is the women's role on tuberculosis and the issues around tobacco control. So what we know at this stage is that over 22,000 women die annually in Africa due to tobacco. And we had an opportunity to speak to Dr. Matsidiso Mwedi earlier this morning. She is the Regional Director for Africa for the World Health Organization. And she talked to us a little bit more about the significance of women and their role in tobacco control, particularly in the African region.
Very significant, but especially the way in which women's health and well-being is affected by tobacco. I would say, first of all, in Africa, we have approximately 22,000 women dying of tobacco-related diseases and conditions every year. But what's most concerning is the fact that we have women and girls targeted by the tobacco industry as a new virgin market to increase the use of tobacco among them. We already have about 13% of girls using tobacco, either cigarettes or snuff, in African countries. And we are concerned about the rising trend and the impact that this is having on women's health and on development of countries as a result of this.
Talk to us a little bit about the World Health Organization Africa region's response to these particular issues affecting women in the tobacco debate.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to say that WHO in the African region has worked with our member states over the last 10 years or more and encouraged and succeeded in having the majority of them adopt the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. So this is a big plus in terms of a beginning. And we have seen countries start to put in place legislation to protect public spaces from smoking overall. We are now starting to work more intensely on the question of women and smoking because we've realized that they're particularly targeted and they're particularly vulnerable in several ways. As I've said, the industry is targeting them in terms of advertising. You know, smoking among girls and women is depicted in the adverts as a way to express your freedom, the fact that you are modern. It's linked to beauty in the adverts, and we know that it has a very poor impact on women's health. So we are working on ensuring that within the broad framework of our work on tobacco control, we address the gender-specific issues. For example, in many countries, in terms of communication with the public, we know that quite significant proportions of women are illiterate. That means that the materials used, including our recommendations to countries in terms of messages on smoking, have to also be able to be understood by people who cannot read, for example. So we are urging countries to take this into account. We know that women constitute quite a significant proportion of the labor that's involved in tobacco growing. And as is being discussed, I'll say this because today is also International Women's Day, there's a lot of discussion about women's pay in general, including in developed countries. And we know that women's work is undervalued and underpaid. And I can imagine that it's particularly so among that 60-something% of the farming labor growing tobacco that are women and children. So for me, growing tobacco also does not help women in terms of their livelihoods. It keeps them back from improving their lives. It keeps them back from contributing to the development of their countries, and this we have to address. So I'm very keen, and I'm urging my colleagues that not only should we work with the tobacco control community, but we need to work with everybody who's concerned about women's development, women's rights, needs to add the issue of tobacco and women in their agenda as far as their well-being and development is concerned.
Finally, Doctor, you mentioned that you're urging your colleagues. I know that today you will be part of a women's panel that's going to be discussing these very issues. Talk to us a little bit about how important is this panel discussion on the role of women, tobacco control, as well as the sustainable development goal?
I think extremely important. We need to raise awareness among decision makers, national leaders, ministers of health, ministers of finance and others in countries who influence policy and investment in programs about the importance of women, not only women, as I said, as people who are targeted and who are affected by tobacco smoking, but also their potential to contribute to the control of tobacco, and then their huge potential, which is underexplored at the moment, to contribute to developing their countries. If you can imagine the number, the hundreds, the millions of people who are affected by tobacco in terms of illness, and what countries have to pay in order to treat these people and keep them alive, look after them for life, because once you have some of the illnesses concerned, you need treatment for life. And if you look at the impact on families, because tobacco has an impact not only on a person's life, but on the life, for example, in terms of pregnant women, on the outcomes of their pregnancies, etc. So I think in terms of women's contribution to development, the health-related impact is important, but also the livelihoods-related impact on women is important. Women are a huge resource for development in all sorts of ways, as people who bring up children and as economic actors in their own right. And I think they need to have their health protected, they need to have their livelihoods potential exploited to the extent possible, and this is how they can contribute to the development of their countries.
And that was Dr. Matsidiso from the World Health Organization in Africa talking about women and their role in tobacco control. One of the major things to look forward to this morning is the launch of a global tobacco atlas, and this is set to give us the latest indication of the impact and the vast economic impact of tobacco use globally as well as in South Africa. For more on that, we will be bringing it to you, but for now it's back to you in studio, Shante.
Thank you very much, Zandile, giving us all the updates there at the 17th World Conference being held in Cape Town under tobacco and health going forward. Well, moving on to some African news, vote counting is underway in Sierra Leone, where more than 3 million people are eligible to choose a new president, parliament and local councillors. Well, President Ernest Bai Koroma is stepping down after serving 2 5-year terms. His chosen successor, Samura Kamara, is being challenged by 15 other candidates, many of them promising to tackle endemic corruption and poverty. Kamara of the All People's Congress is one of the 3 frontrunners. The others are Julius Bada Bayo of the main opposition Sierra Leone People's Party and former UN diplomat Kande Yumkela of the newly formed National Grand Coalition. One of the greatest challenges for the new leader will be to reconstruct a healthcare system following the huge Ebola outbreak in 2014 that killed nearly 4,000 people. Only 200 doctors serve a country of 7 million people. Well, tensions are mounting in Zimbabwe as governing party ZANU-PF fights for survival. The party's youth wing has displayed displeasure from former President Robert Mugabe, who has publicly said he believes the change of government was a coup, an indication that he is still aggrieved by the events that saw him ousted after 38 years in power. Well, this is workers at Mugabe's residence were allegedly taken in for questioning yesterday morning. The incident reportedly left former First Lady Grace Mugabe anxious and not sure whether to remain at the house.
These are the same youth who supported the former president, but now it would seem things have changed. Some have accused Mugabe of continuing to express political statements in public. Speaking at the youth gathering, the current party leader made his views clear on this matter.
The former president, Paitanyaya, Currently, we see in the media about various speculations about these activities. I have no doubt that in no time, the facts and reality will be made known. And we only take position when reality and the issues are known and is factual.
With elections around the corner, the divisions within ZANU-PF are likely to affect the party's performance at the polls. Robert Mugabe is reported to have come to South Africa for a private visit, but it is not clear if he is still in the country. Sophie Mgwen, SABC News.
Well, more than 2,200 people made the Forbes 32nd annual ranking of the world's richest billionaires with a combined wealth of $9.1 trillion. Amazon's founder, Jeff Bezos, is the richest person on the planet with an estimated worth of $112 billion. He's followed by Microsoft's Bill Gates at $90 billion and 87-year-old investor Warren Buffett estimated to be worth $84 million, coming in at third place. Well, Africa's richest billionaire, Aliko Dangote of Nigeria, worth $14.1 billion, came in at 100. 5 South Africans also seem to make the list.
Bezos, who tops the list, saw his net worth improve from $39.2 billion a year ago to a record $112 billion, the biggest 12-month improvement on record. Bill Gates, who's second on the list, comparatively saw his net worth increase from $84 billion last year to $90 billion this year. Of the top 20, 13 are Americans, 2 Chinese, 2 French, and 1 each from Mexico, Spain, and India, with just that group worth a staggering $1.2 trillion combined. Forbes says its numbers are a snapshot of wealth using stock prices and exchange rates, cautioning that some people might get richer or poorer within a matter of weeks. In Africa, commodity businessman Aliko Dangote is the richest, worth $14.1 billion, one of 3 Nigerian billionaires. Egypt has the most African dollar billionaires at 6. South Africa has 5, with Nicky Oppenheimer worth $7.7 billion, followed by Johan Rupert, second at $7 billion. Mining boss Patrice Motsepe is South Africa's 4th richest, with an estimated worth of $2.4 billion, coming in at a lowly 1,020 on this year's Forbes list. President Trump dropped 222 places on this year's list, with a net worth estimated at $3.1 billion, despite claiming to be worth more than $10 billion. Sherman Brycepe's SABC News, New York.
Yeah, talk about bang for your buck. Let's take a short break here on SABC Newsroom. When we come back, all your sporting highlights.
Welcome to Media Monitor, the show that analyzes the big news stories that made headlines. We bring you robust discussions on stories that made headlines in the week, where we interact with media analysts to unpack these top stories. Join me every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 Central African Time as I bring you riveting news and analysis.
Stay tuned to Media Monitor every Sunday from 9 a.m.
Special assignment. Crime keeps the society in terror and pain. Why so?
If someone phones me, tells me, okay, look here, he needs a server, and I get you all driving, I'll take it.
What pushes normal people to be so hard, heartless, and brutally kill one another?
The other side of it could be more for their own psychological need. It might be part of a sexual fantasy that they have. It could be about power and control.
After proper investigation is followed, the perpetrator gets arrested.
It's part of the massive process. And ultimately, they have appearance, right? I think justice is served.
Emotional scars remain.
We would pay any price to get him back, and the sad reality is that it's gone.
Special assignment. We unravel the truth every Sunday at 21:30.
Welcome back to SABC's Newsroom. Let's have a look at your sporting highlights. Now, Manchester City have advanced to the quarter-final of the UEFA Champions League, but fellow English Premier League club Tottenham Hotspur are out. Juventus scored twice in 3 minutes to beat Tottenham 2-1 at the Wembley Stadium and go through with a 4-3 aggregate. City qualified courtesy of a 5-2 aggregate win, despite losing 1-2 in Basel in Manchester.
The first leg clash between Tottenham and Juventus in Turin ended in a 2-2 draw, so it was all to play for at Wembley. Spurs was by far the better side in an eventful first half, but Son Heung-min and Harry Kane failed to convert several opportunities into goals. Juventus, meanwhile, were denied a penalty in the 17th minute. This after Jan Vertonghen brought down Douglas Costa.
Juventus have every right to go to the referee.
The home side took the lead in the 39th minute, Son finally finding the back of the net after several attempts.
It's 1-0 to Tottenham Hotspur.
But in the 64th minute, a crazy 3 minutes followed. First, Gonzalo Higuain brought the Italians right back into the match.
Juventus have level.
And moments later, Paulo Dybala broke Spurs' hearts.
Dybala makes it 2-1 for Juventus, and all of a sudden, Tottenham, from looking very, very secure in the Champions League, are on the brink.
Spurs failed to come back from that setback. Their 2-1 loss, their first defeat in 18 matches.
They have been knocked out by last season's beaten finalists, and Juventus have come to Wembley and they have done a job here.
It's tough because until this moment, I think Tottenham was much better and was the game was under control. And but of course, that is football. Keep going, and now to try to see the future. A lot of game ahead to play, to competition, and in football you cannot stop.
In Manchester, City drew first blood when Gabriel Jesus scored against Basel after just 7 minutes. But City, who didn't play 4 of their senior players, rested on their laurels for the rest of the game, and Basel scored through Mohamed El Younousi and Michael Lang.
A spectacular finish from the Swiss veteran.
The 2-1 defeat was City's first loss at home since 2016. But they've now reached the last 8 of the European Cup or Champions League for the second time. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Well, American sprint legend and reigning 100 meters world champion Justin Gatlin is in the country for the second meeting of the inaugural Athletics Grand Prix Series. The 2004 Olympic Games champion will compete in the 150 meters sprint at the Tuks Athletics Stadium in Pretoria on Thursday evening. SABC News has the exclusive interview with Justin Gatlin. Our reporter had a sit-down with Jay Gatt and had the conversation.
Love from SABC News. Welcome to South Africa. I understand it's your first time, man, in the country. You're welcome, man.
Thank you, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
What took you so long? If I may ask, what took you so long to just come down here in the motherland?
Oh, you know, I wanted to be a special occasion, be able to come here. You know, obviously it's a far journey from the States. So to be able to be here, you know, I wanted to make it count. So to be able to come, not just for, you know, the scenery, but also seeing fans, be able to show my talent in front of many people who will come to watch, not only myself, but athletes who are from this country as well. I think it's going to be a special moment.
You've been a legend and a champion since you were a young man. At the age of 22, you were a champion in Athens. That was 2004. Tell us maybe briefly, how did it feel when you were just having that gold medal back then?
You know, it's a hard feeling to be able to describe because that's all I know, you know, is to be able to compete, run hard, win. You know, even when I wasn't in my best form and best shape, I've always worked hard to be the best I can be.
With all the hostility we are facing lately, and you are making a net of worth more than what? More than $1 million, man. Surely it won't be, and it can't be about the money. What makes you still stay in the sport?
I love track. I love track and field. I'm a fan. You know, even when I'm not running, I'm at home watching races. So even when I was away from the sport for those many years, I watched. You know, I cheered other athletes on. And it also inspired me to be able to come back and to be stronger than I was before.
Outside the field, you seem like an unassuming guy, just in the background, but in the field and the track, you seem like an arrogant, somebody who just knows what he wants or who's trying to brush away the critics. What's happening there?
I mean, I wouldn't say. I mean, when you're in sports, you can't say that it's arrogance, you know, because as an athlete, you have to be confident, and then you have to show confidence to your competitors, you know. So it's like it's posturing, you know. I think who I am away from the track is who I am normally, you know. But on the track, you have to be able to have a different persona, you know. So away from the track, I'm Justin, but on the track, I'm Jay Gat, you know. So I show the world, you know, that when I come out here, I mean business, and win or lose, I'm going to give it my all when I step out on the track.
Do you think that you have still more to accomplish in that track? After maybe losing those years, are you maybe making up for those years, or you still feel that maybe your body is taking you, can take you far?
I think so. You know, I was able to rest my body from the time I was away from track and field, and be able to still have some passion and drive to be able to come back. It gave me a new challenge, a new focus, to be able to kind of reset myself and come back. So, you know, it was actually like a gift and a curse in a way, you know, but it made a new me. It made me a stronger person, you know, on the track and off the track. And I was able to run against new challengers that I didn't before.
A good, great boy, and then a bad boy because of the drug issue, and then now you are back with a bang. Do you see yourself as an idol, and what message will you have for youngsters?
I don't know, man. I don't. I'm just honored that I have fans who believe in me and see me outside of just being a fast runner, you know, and they see that I'm really, you know, a hard worker, a champion, or somebody who pushes forward through adversity. You know, I think that's what really part of my story is that, you know, we all go through rough patches in our life and have ups and downs, but if you focus on the ups, you know, you'll be able to counter the downs.
And your message to youngsters out there?
That's it, really. You know, just be you, believe in who you are. There's going to be times where, you know, you will stand by yourself. You know, there might be people who don't believe in what your goal is, what your dream is, even your mother and your father. You know, they may question, you know, where your path in life is going and what you choose. But if you believe in it and you really execute it and think about it and be able to work towards those goals healthy, I think that the people will start coming around and believing who you are and what you stand for.
There's Tokyo 2020.
2020.
Are you going there?
One way and one in one way and one form, yes. I would like to be able to go to Tokyo 2020 and be on that starting line. That'd be a great, you know, time for me, because I want to be able to say my career started, you know, as a champion in Athens, and my career also, you know, ended in Tokyo. So that'd be a good, you know, story finisher right there.
Let's bring us down back here to South Africa. You have your Agani, you have your Henrico and the likes of Wade van Kerk. What's your take on South African athletes, mostly sprinters?
Amazing. You know, it's amazing to watch athletes come into their own, to watch them grow, you know, and watching Wade. I met Wade back in 2013 when he was training in Genoa, Italy, you know, and just trying to make the team. And watching how strong he became and how focused he became and how passionate and hungry he became to be able to be the best he could be. And the best he could be was a world record holder and a champion. Watching Akani come and making history and understanding that there's not just pressure that comes with it, but it comes responsibility, because now, you know, you have the whole country on your back. and then watching what you do and watching what you're focused, and he's still able to go out there and produce and be successful. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
Tomorrow evening, you'll be up against South Africa's own Anaso Chobotwane in 150 meters right here in Pretoria. Are you ready?
I believe so, yeah. I never ran this early in March before, you know. I usually open up around May. So I'm 2 months ahead of time. So I go up, I plan to go out there and execute my race and tell me, I'm gonna go out there and do exactly what my coach tells me and hopefully have a victory.
Your message to your friends here in South Africa and Africa, because our broadcaster just goes all over the continent.
Man, I'm excited to be here. This is not the last time you'll see me. I'll be back, and hopefully I'll be back to be able to be amongst the community, amongst the people, have some time to be able to be, you know, with the culture. I'm excited about that. Just when the plane touched down, you know, and I was able to see the country from the air, you know, my eyes got a little misty because I felt like it was a sense of home for me. So it made me excited to be here. So hopefully this could be a second home for me.
Well, that's a wrap up of your sport, Elise. For now, let's have a look at your weather forecast.
Fellow South Africans, the journey to the 6th general election has started. We all have a responsibility as South Africans to play our part in strengthening our democracy and building an ever better and prosperous South Africa. This starts with registering to vote. This weekend, the 10th and the 11th of March, all voting stations will be open for new voter registration and for those who are already registered to check and update their details. I especially urge you, young people, to register so that you may play your own part in defining your future. If you are 17 years old and above, or will be voting for the first time, go and register. If you have moved from one place to another, go and register as well. If you have moved from one part of your township, your suburb, or a rural area, go and register. If you have voted before, you can also verify your details on the voters' roll by SMSing your ID number to 32810. Home Affairs offices will be open this Saturday and Sunday. I urge you to go and collect your ID to register to vote. In this, the year of Nelson Mandela, let us deepen democracy and public participation in the affairs of our country. It starts with registering to vote. Thank you.
Well, as the world marks International Women's Day today, UN Women report the examining gaps in implementing sustainable development goals. The 6 suspects arrested in connection with Ngobo police station attack in the Eastern Cape will appear at the local magistrates court. SASA, together with the South African Post Office, will brief the media about their state of readiness for the direct payment of grants to millions of recipients from the 1st of April. Well, it's just gone at 10 o'clock Central African time. Coming to you live from Johannesburg, this is Newsroom. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Shante Yankee. So coming up in this hour, live coverage of that SASA briefing, as well as news from across the continent. First things first, let's have a look at your top story. Leading at the hour is 6 suspects arrested in connection with the Ngobo police station attack in the Eastern Cape are expected to appear at the local magistrates court today. Well, the suspects briefly appeared in court last week for the murder of 5 police officers and a soldier. 3 of them indicated that they would be applying for bail, while the other 3 preferred not to seek bail. They were arrested following a gun battle with police at the Mangoba Seven Angels Ministries Church about 2 weeks ago. Over the weekend, some of the victims were laid to rest. Another 2 officers will be laid to rest this weekend. Well, SASA, together with the South African Post Office, will brief the media about the state of readiness for the direct payment of grants to millions of recipients from the 1st of April 2018. Well, SASA has less than a month to fully migrate core components of the grant scheme from the Cash Paymaster services, as ordered by the Constitutional Court, to SAPO, as agreed to in December last year of 2017. Well, the Constitutional Court heard on Tuesday that SASA did not have alternative plans if the court refused to actually extend the CPS contract by another 6 months. Let's cross over live.
Year of 2018, the centenary year of former President Nelson Mandela and Mama Albertina Sisulu. These caring leaders laid a firm foundation for our thriving democracy by fighting for equality, dignity, and the elevation of poverty. In 1994, when the new dispensation came into power, amongst the many transformational interventions, it introduced a social security program that sought to restore the dignity of the poor and the vulnerable. This was in line with the values and the aspirations fought for by the likes of Mr. Nelson Mandela, Albertina Sisulu, and many more. We remain committed to providing social assistance through grants to poor and vulnerable South Africans. Our social assistance program is at the heart of government's poverty alleviation program and central to restoring the dignity of our people. Through it, we continue to improve the living conditions of poor, vulnerable, and underprivileged South Africans. These include unemployed South Africans as well as orphaned and vulnerable children living in child-headed households. Government is providing social grants assistance to over 17 million poor South Africans through social grants. The majority of the citizens benefiting are children. The child support grant represents 2/3 of the total amount of grants administered by SASA. The grant addresses poverty among children and has grown from 70,000 social grants in 1998 to almost 12 million in 2018. Social grants bring financial security to many families and is, according to the General Household Survey, the main source of income for many South Africans. Now let's come to the suspension of the invalidity of CPS contract. A year ago, the Constitutional Court deliberated on a contract that was deemed invalid and ruled to suspend the invalidity by 12 months ending the 31st of March 2018. This was to enable South African Social Security Agency time to put in place valid contract, which will, amongst others, include the South African Post Office. The former President Zuma tasked the Interministerial Committee on Comprehensive Social Security to oversee the implementation of the Constitutional Court order. A number of media and parliamentary briefings have been held to update the nation, in particular the beneficiaries. As we approach the 31st, we are here to provide South Africans with the progress and confirm the state of readiness to take on this major task. Government is pleased with the progress that has been made to ensure that it complies with all the directives of the Constitutional Court. The service agreement signed between SASSA and SAPO in December 2017 enabled SAPO to partner with SASSA in the payment of social grants, ushering in a public sector-led and efficient grants payment hybrid model. We are pleased to announce a significant state of readiness for SAPO to commence payments on social grants and assure South Africans that social grants will be paid from the 1st of April 2018. The relationship between SASSA and SAPO to ensure the smooth implementation of public sector-led hybrid plans payment model has evolved positively. Now we come to the phasing out of CPS contract. In the past, SASSA relied on services of CPS to pay the 10.7 million beneficiaries through cash payment, direct deposits, and electronic payment. SASSA has reactivated the PMG account in the South African Reserve Bank environment is using to manage money for the direct transfers. This means that the money is not paid over a private contractor in advance, but remains within government environment until deposited into a social grant beneficiary account. SASSA has successfully implemented pilot project since January 2018 by directly paying beneficiaries who receive grants from commercial banks, including post banks. And we must say proudly that this now is being done by SASSA on a monthly basis. SASSA has made direct payments to more than 2.3 million beneficiaries for the month of March 2018, and this number will increase further in April 2018. The testing for the direct payment for beneficiaries receiving payment through the SASSA payment card was done, and 100,000 beneficiaries for March 2018 payment period. In April, a total of 5.7 million beneficiaries transacting through the SASSA payment card will be paid directly by SASSA without the assistance of CPS. In essence, by 1st of April, SASSA would have paid approximately 7.7 million of the 10.7 beneficiaries directly. SASSA also intends depositing money into the cards for those beneficiaries who receive their social grants in cash from cash pay points. The only support that will be required for these approximately 2.8 beneficiaries is the distribution of cash at the pay points. All the above transfers will be made directly from SASSA's own PMG account, which operates within the SA Reserve Bank environment. SASSA has already taken over from CPS the management of direct funeral policy deductions for in excess of 727,000 beneficiaries. These are deductions made in terms of Social Assistance Act and are the only legally allowed deductions made before the social grant is paid into an account of a beneficiary. You can say deductions or the debit orders. The 2.8 million social grants beneficiaries who are paid in cash at SASSA pay points on their normal individual payment dates. It is for this actual distribution of cash where SASSA still requires support. It is for this reason that SASSA brought a limited application to the Constitutional Court with intention of asking the court to suspend the invalidity declaration of its contract with CPS for 6 months. This is now for a phase-in period and a phase-out period. This would enable cash payment to be made through the CPS infrastructure till September 2018 for approximately 26% of the beneficiaries. A tender has already been advertised and payment contractor for cash payment will be appointed soon. The further suspension of the invalidity declaration will also ensure that a proper phase-in, phase-out or a handover process between CPS and SAPO. As you know well, this matter is currently before the court and will not be in a position to elaborate further on it. The ruling from the Constitutional Court is pending. SASSA is in the process of appointing a cash payment service provider who will distribute social grants using new SASSA SAPO card at all pay points across the country. SASSA, through National Treasury and South African Reserve Bank, is also in talks with commercial banks for the establishment of a low-cost account for social grants beneficiaries who receive their money directly into their personal accounts. SASSA is currently engaged 27 accredited cooperative financial institutions that may be used in the future to pay for social grants. I will now give over to my partner here, Mr. Barnes, to carry on.
Thank you, Acting CEO, and good morning, everybody. The Post Office is ready to play its role in the payment of social grants. SAPO will commence with the phasing in of and processes to ensure that the payment of social grants does take place without interruption on from the 1st of April, as per the agreement which we entered into with SASSA. SAPO is ready to open the accounts for SASSA grants beneficiaries from the 3rd of April. The testing of the bulk accounts opening process with a sample of 1,000 existing SASSA beneficiaries' data was seamlessly concluded already in February. The special disbursement account has the following features. For once, reading the fine print will be to your advantage. There will be no deductions. There will be 3 free cash withdrawals. There will be 1 free balance inquiry per month, 1 free mini statement per month, a free full statement covering up to a maximum of 3 months on demand, and the first free replacement card. These are the specific services that SAPO as an organ of state bring to bear in assisting and ensuring better economics for the beneficiaries. Given the participation of SAPO's Postbank in the national payment system, an increasing number of beneficiaries have also already opened Postbank accounts between January and February, exercising one of their key choices of the hybrid model. Some of those beneficiaries are already being paid by Postbank, and some were paid in March. SASSA and SAPO are starting to phase in a process where, if current SASSA pay points are within 5 kilometers of the post office branch, and there's an extraordinary audited intersection of our networks, within 5 kilometers, then the post office branch, if it meets the minimum requirements and norms and standards, will become the pay point to replace existing pay points that are out there. The integrated payment of social grants will benefit beneficiaries and is very user-friendly. SASSA and SAPO, in partnership, will enable the development of an integrated grant payment system that's well on track. This will be a significant milestone in the roadmap of insourcing the grant payment functions into organs of state in the very near future. The integrated payment system will also be convenient, easy to use, and accessible to all social grant beneficiaries. It will also go a long way towards reducing fraud and corruption associated with the payment of social grants through its integration with the harness system, Home Affairs National Identification System. SASSA and SAPO will continue to hold regular meetings, as we do on a weekly, if not more frequently basis, to ensure that this transition is smooth from the 1st of April and beyond. The public partnership between SASSA and SAPO represents a model service delivery blueprint for government that is easily replicable in other service sectors. Thank you. Back to my colleague.
All SASSA cards will continue to work until the end of the year. Want to say to beneficiaries using old SASSA card that may continue to do so until the 31st of September 2018. We'll soon introduce the new SASSA cards via the post office, which will be a SASSA SAPO card, and beneficiaries will be informed about the process to be followed. Please, beneficiaries, I want to stress that they will be informed by the process followed. At the same time, I want to emphasize that our beneficiaries should stick to their own cards, and because there are no card swaps that are being done. We will progressively introduce over the period of April to 30th September. when it is expected that current SASSA card will no longer be in circulation at all, but it will, the requested date for the expiry is the 31st of December 2018. In the meantime, beneficiaries should ignore anybody offering them any alternative card to SASSA 1 under the guise that SASSA card has changed. For clarity on this matter, beneficiaries may contact SASSA on 0800 60 10 11, 0800 60 10 11, or visit the nearest SASSA office for more information. SASSA beneficiary has 3 options of receiving their social grants, namely the cash payment at the cash pay points, through merchants, supermarkets that have been used, they can still carry on using them, and via their personal bank account. Beneficiaries are encouraged to choose a payment option that is convenient to them. Those beneficiaries who already receive social grants through the banks are not required to open new bank accounts. Beneficiaries who prefer their grants paid directly into their bank accounts should complete a request for bank payment from the SASSA offices and the available SAPO outlets or SASSA offices. The completed form should be handed to the nearest SASSA office. We wish to express our appreciation to all members of the public who have called in to seek clarity in this process, and especially appreciate the efforts of community organizations, labor representatives, faith-based structures, and a host of other groups who have played a key role in sharing information with beneficiaries or members of their families to smooth this process. Special mention needs to be made of the many staff of SASSA and SAPO who have heeded the call to action to work in collaborative spirit to ensure that this partnership yields the results so critical to the life of our nation. Working together, we are committed to ensure that right social grants is paid to the right person at the right time and the right place. Njalo. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, leadership. Colleagues, we will open for, I can see you are Benny. We will open for questions here, and then we'll go to Cape Town. I'm sure Andile is ready in Cape Town. Andile, are you ready there?
It's Ayanda.
Oh,
we are ready.
Okay.
Yes.
No, that's fine. Let me open for questions. I think we know the drill. Colleagues, can I just point the hands? You'll be the first one. The second one. Is there any other hands? Oh, you'll be the third one. Okay.
Good morning, Anton Meyer from Pretoria FM. Are you confident that 6 months is enough time for you to phase out CPS? You asked the court for a 6-month extension. Are you confident that it's enough time? Thank you.
Sbahle Mota from Jacaranda FM. I just want to know, where is the new Minister of Social Development, and just also her reaction to the progress that has been made so far with SAPO and the payments of social grants?
Erin Bates from ENCA. Firstly, if we could just get an update, please, on any contracts with work streams and whether those are going forward. Secondly, I understand that the design of the post office social grant card caused some delays toward the end of last year. Can you please give us an update on that and when the cards will be printed and how many per day? And then lastly, from my reading of things and being at the interministerial briefing in November, it seems like sometimes SASSA and SAPO are friends and sometimes they're frenemies, and that there have been several delays along the way, even in court this week, contradictory versions on why you had to go to the Constitutional Court for that extension. Please, can you just explain, is SAPO in no position to make those cash payments, and if not, when will it be ready to do so? Thank you.
Okay. CEO.
Oh, thank you very much. The 6 months request to the court, although according to the court is an extension because that's legally, we only need that 6 months for the phasing and the phasing out of CPS. That's why we're confident that 6 months will be enough. And then on the contracts with the work streams, as soon as Treasury declined the work streams, and then they also requested that they leave. We no longer have any contract with the work streams. And then on the cash payment, or on the design of a card, I'll give it to my counterpart.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the COO, who's the co-chair of the steering committee, to talk specifically about the card design and production, and then I'll come back on the others.
Thank you, CEO. Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. In relation, as you know, that the service agreement was signed on the 8th of December, and December period is usually a freeze period. But as SASSA, as the CEO has indicated, that SAPO is actually ready in terms of the timeline as per the agreed roadmap. So what had happened is that we've done the procurement process. A successful bidder has been appointed, a contract is done. In terms of the number of card production per day, we're looking at 250,000 per day. So the design, everything that we do has to be signed off by the client, which is SASSA. The specification and everything has been duly signed. We are happy to indicate that right now the process is, the production process is underway, and MasterCard as well as Visa have received the tax card from our selected service provider. So as far as we are concerned, that process is underway. But also remember that the CEO, acting CEO from SASSA, has indicated that the validity of the existing card is 30th of December 2018. But as SAPO, we are confident that the migration process will be accelerated, and we may need to actually cut that period down by earlier than anticipated, but we'll duly notify the public in that regard. Thank you.
Okay, if I can just add, there are a couple of more broader points. The first one relates to the cash pay points. I think right from the outset, we never regarded the delivery of cash to pay points as a core capability of the post office, and we would have had to invest significant capital to replicate the delivery mechanism that's being used there, which we think, frankly, over time will start being replaced with technology. Our contribution to the cash distribution is that we have, together with SASSA, worked out where there are post offices contiguous to existing cash pay points, and at a significantly lower cost to the ultimate beneficiary, we can deliver cash through the post office branch network at a specific counter. There's a lot of additional convenience to that, which is that, you know, the truck doesn't have to arrive at a specific time and leave at a specific time. The post office will be there all of the time. That will cater for about, a third in due course as we do the transition of those cash pay points. And we've identified 865 branches where that point of intersection takes place. And our training of the people is well underway to be able to deal with that. So that as far as the cash payment is concerned. I mean, I think this question about frenemies, it's a new word which I'm going to add to my vocabulary. I mean, it's always, when we come together, any two service providers which have to find their way in how they operate, it takes a bit of time. And so it should, because we take the output very seriously. Let me assure you that on a weekly basis, more than once a week, we are an integrated team. It's not that we're just working together. We are actually one integrated team with very, very process-driven focus groups that focus on every element of what is a complex process when you try and get it all together into an integrated payment system. So, I don't know if you'd like to do a photo shot of Pearl and I smiling next to each other, but here it is, okay. We're working together, we're a team, and that's just how it is. As far as the 6 months, just to endorse what the COO said, our card production will be complete well within the 6-month period. I don't know the exact date, but if you take 250,000 times the number of days of production, you'll get to a date way before the 30th of September, which was always anticipated as a transition. The reason that transition is in place is not just to ensure that we get it done in time, but to ensure that the beneficiary has always got a backup just in case. And that's also typical of such handover things. Thank you.
We happy? I think we'll go to Cape Town. Ayanda?
Thank you. We've got one question. Two, actually.
Thank you so much. Paul Herman from News 24. My question are to Mr. Barnes and Ms. Bengu. My first question is, in the unlikely event that the CPS contract is not extended, what are the contingencies come April 1st for the 30% of beneficiaries who need cash payments? Is there a plan in place? That's my first question. My second question leads on from that with Mr. Barnes. You said that Post Office is currently upskilling its staff to aid with cash deliveries. I'm assuming that won't be for the April 1st deadline. Is this in view of being complete within the 6-month phase-in, phase-out process? What percentage of the 22.8 million will that help provide for? And then my last question is probably the most important. Has this messaging been communicated to the beneficiaries? Do they know that if they go to their bank, to a ShopRite, to a SASSA outlet, a Post Office outlet, that their Grindrod bank cards still work? Are the beneficiaries on board, and do they know what is going to happen come April 1st? Thank you so much.
Second question.
Good morning, Linda Ensor, Business Day. The Constitutional Court judges made quite scathing and critical remarks in considering your application. Do you think they were incorrect? And I mean, do you think your position is defensible? Thank you. The delay and the need for an extension of the contract. Thank you.
Last question from Cape Town. Cape Town is covered. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Ayanda. CEO, then Mark will come.
Thank you very much, Ayanda. In the light of the Constitutional Court saying no to 6 months, in our statement, we've elaborated what SASSA has done.
Can you put the mic on, please?
Is that okay? Switch it on.
Still off.
In the light of the Constitutional Court saying no, remember I've already outlined that SASSA has already opened an account with the Reserve Bank as a contingency measure, where we've been paying the commercial bank accounts already are being paid through that PMG account with the Reserve Bank. What is going to happen then, we'll have to request that the full amount of all the will be paid to all the Green Road cards that SASSA is having. Remember, the people that are at the cash pay points are also using the SASSA cards. So on the day of the payment, they will all the people that are getting grants from SASSA will get their money. Their money will be in their cards. Now, the only problem that is going to arise on the day is that the older persons and the disabled people that are using pay points will be there with their cards, with the money in their cards, but they won't have the cash that is brought to them on monthly basis. So our contingency plan that maybe was not allowed is that then the problem will be then there will be inconvenience because they will have to be given pins and be taken to places that they can draw their money. Those places are the ATMs, the merchants, the banks, and everywhere else where SASSA people are drawing their money. That is one. If the Constitutional Court saying no, then we need to speed up everyone getting pins and making sure that on the day of the payment, how then do you take them to the other places, which is the contingency that we've had as SASSA for a very long time. And then on the part of the Constitutional Court, I think because of the time that is given to the council, they didn't have enough time to actually outline what SASSA has been doing all along. Because at the moment, I can assure you that from the 1st of April, through our PMG account, all the beneficiaries that are being paid by CPS, that function will be taken by SASSA, and SASSA will be paying all the beneficiaries from the PMG account through the Reserve Bank. Those are the things that were not said in the court. Again, we have taken over as SASSA the funeral covers, which is called the 26A. All the people that have got deductions or debit orders, or if you want to call it that, from the funeral cover, SASSA will be doing that one in-house. That's the part that already being taken over from CPS. And we have tested, we've been doing testing, and we've been testing that all those operations are working. We tested from the 1st of January this financial year, this year, and then everything is in order, and we assure everyone that we are in track, and a lot of work has been done on the SAPO side. Even SAPO has been preparing themselves to actually take over from their side, and we have done quite a lot. I would suggest that with the court, there was no time to actually put forward and explain what has been done in the period, because I think that's where the contentious issue was, what has SASSA been doing, and SASSA has done quite a lot from our side.
Thank you. Just to address the staff training issue and the timing of that, it's quite an intense program. We've got something like 743 people that are already completing training, due to be appointed on the 16th of March for those specific counters where we've identified an overlap. And we've got another 2,570 tellers that are going to get specific training, even for branches where there aren't actually going to be pay points. And those will be completed by the 30th of March. So well in time, we'll have everyone trained. It is not anticipated that the transition will take place immediately on the 1st of April, like with all of the other phase-in, phase-out deals. As and when we migrate from a cash pay point to a post office teller, that process will take place in an orderly way once the upgrade of those interfaces has been complete.
Furthermore, we've also looked at extending trading hours inclusive of Saturdays and Sundays as part of the accelerated program. Thanks.
In relation to communicating to beneficiaries, we started as early as the December payment. All the time when we are at pay points, we are communicating to beneficiaries, indicating how we will be affecting the payment. And we've also been using the community radio station through the assistance of the GCIS, but also all the imbizos and government functions where the population is there, we are giving information. Like even today, we are paying in different pay points. There is information that we are relaying to the community out there.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that both CEOs were very clear. That's why you see so few hands.
You asked for it.
No, this is the last round I'm opening, colleagues. So if you want to ask a question, please. Is there a hand here in front?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I can't see you properly, but I think you'll be the first one.
Okay.
Just wait. You'll be the second one and the third one. That's it, colleagues. Okay. Are those only hands? You'll ask questions, then we'll give Cape Town the last bite. Then I think from there we'll have to close.
Yes.
Janke Tolmay from Power FM. The legal counsel for SASSA told the Constitutional Court that there will be chaos if the contract is not extended. Do you think, is that still the position, or do you think the contingency plans in place will be adequate to avoid any chaos?
Okay. My question again, just about the absenteeism of the minister. I mean, we've just come from a reshuffle, and what was my other question? Yeah, and just her reaction. I mean, she's not here, and can you perhaps give us her reaction on the process between SAPO and SASSA?
Yes,
This is for the acting CEO. Please, if you could tell us if you support the argument that CPS should pay 700 million rand of profits from its contract with SASSA since 2012 back to the state. And then this is a question for Ms. Mvulane. During the inquiry at the Office of the Chief Justice, both Thokozani Magwaza and Zane Dango were very critical of your role in the work stream appointments and also your proximity to the then Minister, Batabile Dlamini. Are you confident that those administrative issues have been dealt with and that we won't have any work streams involved in SASSA going forward, please?
Thank you, Acting CEO.
Oh, thank you, Program Director. Let's come to the chaos part that has been asked, which is very important to clear so that people are aware what's going to happen. On the 1st of April, should the court say no, this is what is going to happen. The people that are using PayPoints will be having their cards with the money, but without anyone coming to deliver cash. I think the council was worried about the people that are actually using PayPoints. Remember, the people that are using PayPoints are elderly people and mostly disabled people. So it would have been then for SASSA, I think he meant the process of SASSA, taking all those people from the PayPoints to where they can get their money. That's what he meant. Maybe chaos was a bit stronger word, but it would be a very inconvenient to all those people to be taken, firstly to be given pins and to be taken to the place where they can get their money. That is where we felt that for that reason, we definitely need the 6 months so that they can always get their money where they are supposed to. And when they are migrated from the PayPoints to the nearest post office, it's not a post office that is very far from them so that they are not inconvenienced. That's the one. And then coming to the one about our minister is new. We're still briefing her on what is happening. But the one, why we're here today is more operational. That's why there are no ministers at all. It's only an operational level where we wanted to tell the South Africans where we are with the operations of working with SAPO. And then supporting the part of the CPS that is sub judice. I wouldn't really want to comment on the 700 million of saying they must pay it back, or not. The court will decide on that one. Thank you very much. From my side.
My proximity to the minister, it's inherent in the job that when you are involved in a project as huge as this one, the minister from time to time will require to have reports of where we are, both operationally and administratively, just to understand. So that was my only proximity to the minister, as an official giving reports as and when it is requested of me to do that. In relation to the work streams and the appointment and my proximity to the work streams, as a project manager in an organization where a payment model has been developed by consultants, you have to understand that payment model. So that's how I got to be involved with the work streams. But also, as the project manager for all the procurement that are done, including the ones that we have just done now, when we had to get SAPO on board, it's me who is liaising directly with SAPO and like now, for leading the payment process. It's myself and the group COO from SAPO. So also in this instance, when I was working closely with the workstream, it was just for me to understand the model that has been advised, that has been given to them, to SASSA, but also being the conduit between the organization and such consultants. But I don't have any relationship outside the working relationship with those workstream leaders.
Mark, are you fine?
No, I'm fine, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Ayanda?
Yes, we've got 2 questions.
Hi, I'm Susan Seeger. I'm freelancing at the moment. It's just a question for Ms. Bengu or anyone from SASSA. At any stage during the transition or afterwards, will there be a need possibly to buy any infrastructure from CPS?
Paul Vecchiato, Bloomberg. Should the Constitutional Court approve CPS continuing for another 6 months, how much would CPS earn, or what fees will the departments pay to CPS for this? Thank you.
Yes, Acting Sir.
Thank you. At this stage, we are not looking at buying any equipment from CPS. That was the first question. The second question, the amount that would be paid to CPS, the court has again said that CPS will have to negotiate with National Treasury.
I think everybody's happy. Thank you very much, colleagues. There's Homoto Diseko here from SASA and Bongani from SAPO. If you want...
Just coming out there of that SASA briefing, say that they will be ready come the 1st of April 2018 for the rollout of those grants to millions of beneficiaries. We now break away from that and we go to some breaking news coming in. The Hawks have confirmed that they are currently raiding the offices of Northwest Premier Supra Mahumapelo. They say their investigation relates to allegations of fraud and corruption. Hawks Northwest Provincial spokesperson Captain Langeni also confirmed the raid, saying that it was a search and seizure operation that involved gathering any documents that may be related to their probe. For more details on this as they come in minute by minute, we're now joined by Nicolene Smallman, who joins us now on the line for developments. Very good morning to you, Nicolene. What details can you give us around the raid?
Good morning. Details are quite sketchy at this moment. We just had an interview with a spokesperson for the Hawks here in Northwest, who is only willing to divulge at this stage that they are investigating a case of alleged fraud and corruption. She is not willing to say whether the case or the charge has been leveled against an individual or a governmental department. Documents have been seized from the Director General's office as well as the Department of Finance. They were also at the office of the Premier, where documents have been seized. Allegations at this stage are that it might be related to 100 million rand payout to Nepal Digital Dynamics, who has been tasked to supply governmental organizations with IT facilities. But she was also not willing to deny or confirm that.
Have you been able to get any word coming in from the Premier's office itself with regards to the raid?
Not at all. We are about to interview a spokesperson in that regard.
What seems to be the consensus and the mood within the building on the scene?
Sorry, just repeat that question, please.
What seems to be the mood with regards to residents and employees on the scene at the actual offices?
Everyone is running around looking for documents, I suppose, that have been requested by the investigators of the Hawks. The corridors are actually quiet at the moment. There is not much movement to be seen where we are at currently.
Would you then say that it would be safe to say rather that the Premier's office seems to be compliant with the raid?
It seems like they are cooperating, yes, indeed.
All right, so we will cross back to our reporter via phone line there, Nicolene Smallman, just giving us details around that Hawks raid on Supra Mahumapelo's office in the Northwest. We have got information on that, and we'll keep giving you more information as it comes through minute by minute. For now, though, let's take a short break here on SABC Newsroom.
We take an in-depth look of all your stories of the day across the world. Stay tuned to Primetime News every day from 18 hours.
Well, 3 suspects believed to be linked for last month's shooting of a police officer in Kwa Mapumolo have been killed in a shootout with police. Tension is mounting in Zimbabwe as governing party ZANU-PF fights for survival. Vote counting is underway in Sierra Leone, where more than 3 million people are eligible to choose a new president, parliament and local councillors. Well, efforts to regulate and control tobacco use globally are taking centre stage at a 3-day conference in Cape Town. Well, some 2,000 delegates, which include policymakers, health professionals and researchers from 100 countries, are joining forces at the 17th World Conference on Tobacco or Health to focus on tobacco control policies. The theme of the conference is Uniting the World for a Tobacco-Free Generation. SABC News reporter Zandi Meniza had more for us. Well, of course, we crossed to Zandile earlier. Let's cross over now to Mbali, who is on standby, giving us an update there in Cape Town. Very good morning to Zandile. What do you have your side?
Hi Shante, it's Mbali here. I'd like to bring your attention to our viewers' attention and your attention to the board that's behind me. Delegates here are obviously here for the tobacco conference, and they're actually talking and they're having talking about tobacco control measures, and those have been the conversations that have been had throughout the conference. But what the one question that delegates are being asked is, what is what's your vision of a healthy future? And as you can see, there are people who have been writing on the wall as it is. And, I'm just going to read a few for you. And the 2 or 3 that actually stand out for me is this one here. ZCC taught me that smoking is a taboo. And I appreciate that. So he doesn't smoke or she doesn't smoke because it's a taboo. There's another one. It says, my lungs are too precious to feed them tar and nicotine. So these are the things that people have been writing, and people are actually also supporting this initiative of a tobacco-free generation. And that's what people are here talking about. The conference is in Africa for the first time, and I'm joined here by Patricia Marquez from the World Bank, and he'll be talking to us about about the significance of bringing this conference to Africa. And he's also going to be answering the question about what his health future should look like, what the vision of his health future is. Hi, how are you?
Okay, thanks. First of all, happy Women's Day.
Thank you very much.
And second of all, I would like to clearly indicate that tobacco taxation, the control of tobacco, should be seen as a critical investment in order to ensure investment and the full realization of human capital in Africa. Human capital is the key ingredient for medium and long-term economic and social development. It's the key ingredient to ensure that countries accumulate wealth. But in order to do that, you need to have healthy, well-prepared, productive populations. People who smoke and develop tobacco-related illnesses die prematurely, fall ill, fall into poverty, and they are not able to contribute as a whole to generate that human capital that fuels the total wealth and the economic prosperity of a nation. So tobacco taxation should be seen as a critical investment, as a critical responsibility of governments to ensure the health and the well-being of the population.
So what is your vision of a healthy future? Could you please write it on the wall for our viewers to see?
For me, a healthy future in Africa is to have healthy, well-educated populations that avoid getting addicted to tobacco use. Tobacco kills.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Patricio Marquez. It's such a pleasure having you with us, and we're very happy to have had you do this on air for all our viewers to see. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. What Patricio Marquez actually touches on is something that I spoke to a professor from the University of UCT about the cost that tobacco-related illnesses take away from the economy. Because when people fall ill, they generally can't really go to work and they can't be active economically. But we also spoke about the role that universities have with regards to tobacco control measures. And I started by asking him about the role of universities in tobacco control measures. Please, let's take a look at the interview.
Yes, thank you, Mbali. The University of Cape Town has got a long history of being involved in tobacco control research at a variety of different levels. So I'm from the School of Economics. We've been involved in this type of research for the past 20 years. The big advantage of universities doing this type of research is, of course, the independence that it brings to the research. So we find that when research has been done by companies themselves or has been funded by companies, there's always the question of independence. With the university, our big advantage is that we are independent. We probably have more time to do these studies very, very thoroughly and very, very decently.
And, you know, yesterday we had Bloomberg Philanthropies talking about research that's being done by tobacco industries that are tobacco companies themselves, which has actually been, they find that it's been misleading. So your research is independent, and therefore, you know, you are also, as the university, are you also advocating for a tobacco-free generation?
Absolutely. We would like to have a tobacco-free generation. The research that my project does is specifically focused on objectivity, on rigorousness, but we have got a very strong focus on public health. So at the end of the day, we want to be objective, we want to be independent, but primarily we want to enhance the public health of people.
So we have world leaders and health ministers talking about how tobacco, obviously, and smoking causes all kinds of avoidable diseases, and they want to restrict the number of people who have been dying as a result of that. And obviously, when people fall ill because of a disease that they contracted, like cancer, and they can't really be active, economically active citizens of the country, how much does that take away from the economy?
So we haven't got a recent study that is done for South Africa, but a recent study has been done for the world, and the numbers are staggering. And according to the research that has been done, $1.4 trillion is lost every year because of illnesses and lost income and costs that is associated with tobacco illnesses and diseases. As a percentage of global per capita, as a percentage of global GDP, that's approximately 1.5% of global incomes that is lost through tobacco-related diseases and illness.
And then we have, my apologies, we have been talking about the illicit tobacco trade. How is that affecting South Africa?
At the moment, we've got a very, very significant issue with illicit trade in South Africa. Up to about 2 years ago, illicit trade was broadly under control. The tobacco industry has an incentive to exaggerate it. The unfortunateness is that in the past 2 years, there's been a very significant decrease in legal consumption, and there's been a very significant increase in illicit consumption. That is probably because of a breakdown of some of the institutions of of the country that are specifically focused on monitoring and ensuring that illicit trade does not occur. So it is something that is of significant concern to us as economists. We see that over the past 2 years there's been a 25% decrease in the sale of legal cigarettes. At one level, one thinks that that's a good thing. At the same time, though, it is suggestive, very strongly suggestive, that there's been a very increase in illegal cigarettes, and that is something that the government should focus on very strongly.
Some of the suggestions have been that taxes on tobacco should be increased to obviously curb the habit and for people to start kicking the habit. How can these taxations be used for development?
So in many countries, there's a strong focus on earmarking of tobacco taxes. In South Africa, our Treasury has taken the view that they don't want to support any earmarking of any sort. That would include something like tobacco taxes as well. But in many countries, we do have that there has been a strong support for earmarking of tobacco taxes, not only for tobacco control purposes, but also to improve public health generally, to reduce non-communicable diseases and so on. In the case of South Africa, it is not likely to get political traction simply because the Treasury has taken the view, probably rightly so, that we do not want to have too many dedications because it results in rigidities in the budget process, in less flexibility and possibly wastage as well.
And then finally, the question on the board is, what's your vision of a healthy future? What is yours?
My vision would be of a future where tobacco control is something that is part of history, or rather where tobacco is part of history, where people go to museums and say, what did they do in the beginning of the 21st century? Why did they do such an incredibly stupid thing? And that that we are working in a completely smoke-free world.
Well, Shante, that's all we have from this side. But before I go, I have a suggestion for you. How about we ask our viewers what their vision of a healthy future is? I mean, let's hear what they think the future should look like. Is it tobacco-free or one with more education? Anyway, it's back to you in studio.
Definitely. Thank you very much for that, Mbali, taking us through the 17th Tobacco Health Conference in Cape Town. Possibly that is a question that we could pose to our viewers tomorrow. For now, though, let's take a short break. Do stay tuned.
SABC is the official broadcaster of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
When life takes a different turn.
If I didn't eat the speak, he was going to evict me.
Your will to persevere is ignited.
I'm not a professional speaker, but I'll try my best to give you a word of inspiration.
He was just trying to provide for his family.
If you can't accept it, change it. If you cannot change it, accept it.
And a new story begins.
Made a resolve to myself. I'm learning something new.
Upilong, every Friday at 5:30. Be part of the life-changing journey.
Technology is used for both positive and negative.
Some governments block the internet in times of protest.
With this internet blackout, it's impossible for me to do it, so I have to travel to Douala.
This act is a true violation of the rights of citizens.
In Africa, people are always coming up with innovative ways to use technology to solve some of their problems.
The more interesting piece of technology is actually the artificial intelligence.
AI, it's utilizing data to make your life easier.
On Network, we'll give you Africa's technology and social media news.
For all your technology news, join Siphumelele Zondi every Saturday at 17:30.
Well, leading the Hawks have confirmed that they are currently raiding the offices of Northwest Premier Supra Mahmudelo. SASSA and Post Office have made the assurance that social grants will be paid come the 1st of April. The 6 suspects arrested in connection with the Ngobo police station attack in the Eastern Cape will appear at the local magistrates court. Well, it's just gone 11 o'clock Central African time. We're coming to you live from Johannesburg. This is Newsroom. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Shante Yankees. A lot coming up in this hour, including the latest on the Hawks raid of Northwest Premier Supra Mahmudelo. We will be giving you more updates on that, as well as news from across the continent and the globe. First things first, let's have a look at your lead story. There you have it. The Hawks have confirmed that they are currently raiding the offices of Northwest Premier Supra Mahmudelo. Well, they say their investigation relates to allegations of fraud and corruption. The Hawks Northwest Provincial spokesperson, Captain Tlangelani Rikotso, confirmed the raid, saying it was a search and seizure operation that involved gathering any documents that may be related to their probe. Our Northwest reporter, Nicolene Smallman, joins us once again now on the line for some more developments. Very good morning to you once again, Nicolene. Any more details since we last spoke a couple of moments ago?
Not at this stage, no. The Hawks said they will be releasing a more comprehensive statement later on, and spokesperson for the Premier has just convened to me that they will be holding a press conference at 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Now, early on we spoke, it's unconfirmed and unverified at this point in time, but you said that there could be a possible link with regards to this case, linking it to a 100 million rand payout to a company.
That is a speculation at this stage, yes.
Can you confirm which company it is in regard to?
Network Digital Solutions, as far as I have the name of the company. It is a company supplying IT services to the government here in Northwest.
All right. And with regards to the actual Premier's office, when we spoke a couple of moments ago, you hadn't got any word from a representative at the office. Have you been able to get any more information from them as yet?
Not at all, not at all. As I spoke to the Premier spokesperson a while ago, who said they won't be giving us any comment before the press conference at 1 o'clock.
All right, thank you very much, Nicolene Smallman for SABC News via phone line there in the Northwest. Well, we're going to have to await that presser. Apparently, come 1 o'clock, there will be a briefing on the raid that has taken place at the Northwest Premier's office this morning. We will be giving you more updates as and when they continue to come in, minute by minute, it seems. But staying with developing stories now, Minister of Mineral Resources, Mantashe, is in Mpumalanga, where he is expected to address workers at the Optimum mine. We now cross live to our reporter, Tumelo Machoho, who is covering developments. A very good morning to you, Tumelo. Of course, we do know the past couple of weeks, months have been quite traumatic and strenuous for some of the workers that side. Essentially, what is the aim and the importance of the visit this morning?
Well, the minister just arrived just after 10:30 here at the mine, and the workers are now streaming in, getting into the mine to listen to the minister. The minister is expected to address the workers regarding the issues that they've been facing. You'd remember that the workers were not paid, and then for their February salaries, that payment was done last week, and only they returned to work only on Tuesday this week. So the workers, they're still very much worried about what's going to happen to them with regarding to the payment and regarding to the fact that even though they're paid and some of the contractors are still not paid, but they're still worried that there are more issues that still need to be addressed, especially when it comes to who owns the mine, and especially with the banks that was working with this mine very closely being closed down. So the workers are still worried about what's going to happen to them in the next coming months if the situation continues. But so far, the minister is inside, is meeting with the workers. Is that meeting's expected to start at around between 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock. So we're not sure when the meeting is going to start, but the people are now going in to meet with the minister. So at this point, we don't know what more information they're going to resolve, but the minister is here to keep them calm and also to tell them what the resolution are going to take to make sure that they continue to work here. You remember this mine alone employs over 1,400 people. So they are worried. Those people are worried about their payment, and also especially those who are not paid, the contractors that are still not paid, they're also worried about their payment. When are they going to get paid?
Indeed. Thank you very much for giving us that update there from Mpumalanga, where Gudemantashe is set to address the workers working at the Optimum mine. Well, Hawks Northwest Provincial Spokesperson Captain Langaleni Rikotso has the very latest on the raid at Supra Mahumopelo's offices. A very good morning to Captain. Thank you. What details, if any, at this point in time, can you tell us about the raid at the office?
Yes, so we're currently at the offices of the Northwest Premier, where we're doing a search and seizure to, obviously get documents that can assist us in this investigation that we have ongoing in relation to a case of alleged fraud and corruption.
Can you confirm the case that it is linked to? There is a speculation that it is linked to a IT company that has been contracted by the Northwest Premier's office.
At this stage, I can't confirm what the case is in relation to, unfortunately.
And who exactly is being investigated? Is it the Premier himself or his office or other employees?
This is a holistic investigation, so I can't say specifically who is being investigated. Obviously, we don't want to jeopardize our investigations. At this stage, the matter is quite delicate.
At this point in time in the morning, would you describe the Premier's office as being compliant with the Hawks raid this morning?
Yes, everyone has been cooperative with us.
All right, very elusive, but thank you very much. The spokesperson there from the Hawks giving us an update with regards to that raid that took place on the Northwest Premier's offices this morning. Very elusive. We're going to have to wait 1 o'clock. Allegedly, there will be a press briefing come 1 o'clock to give us more details there on that story. Well, the Constitutional Court on Tuesday reserved judgment in the urgent application which was brought by the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, to have its contract with grants distributor Cash Paymaster Services extended by another 6 months. The contract between CPS and SASSA, which was entered in 2012, was allegedly declared invalid by the court already back in 2014. Today, the Post Office and SASSA earlier briefed the media on the progress made regarding the payments of grants from the 1st of April 2018.
All SASSA cards will continue to work until the end of the year. Want to say to beneficiaries using old SASSA card that may continue to do so until the 31st of September 2018. We'll soon introduce the new SASSA cards via the post office, which will be a SASSA Sapo card, and beneficiaries will be informed about the process to be followed. Please, beneficiaries, I want to stress that they will be informed by the process followed. At the same time, I want to emphasize that our beneficiaries should stick to their own cards, and because there are no card swaps that are being done. We will progressively introduce over the period of April to 30th September, when it is expected that current SASSA card will no longer be in circulation at all, but it will. The requested date for the expiry is the 31st of December 2018. In the meantime, beneficiaries should ignore anybody offering them any alternative card to SASSA One under the guise that SASSA card has changed. For clarity on this matter, beneficiaries may contact SASSA on 0800 60 10 11, 0800 60 10 11, or visit the nearest SASSA office for more information. SASSA beneficiary has 3 options of receiving their social grants, namely the cash payment at the cash pay points, through merchants, supermarkets that have been used, they can still carry on using them, and via their personal bank account. Beneficiaries are encouraged to choose a payment option that is convenient to them. Those beneficiaries who already receive social grants through the banks are not required to open new bank accounts. Beneficiaries who prefer their grants paid directly into their bank accounts should complete a request for bank payment from the SASSA offices and the available SAPO outlets or SASSA offices. The completed form should be handed to the nearest SASSA office. We wish to express our appreciation to all members of the public who have called in to seek clarity in this process, and especially appreciate the efforts of community organizations, labor representatives, faith-based structures, and a host of other groups who have played a key role in sharing information with beneficiaries or members of their families to smooth this process. Special mention needs to be made of the many staff of SASSA and SAPO who have heeded the call to action to work in collaborative spirit to ensure that this partnership yields the results so critical to the life of our nation. Working together, we are committed to ensure that right social grants is paid to the right person at the right time and the right place. Njalo.
The Post Office is ready to play its role in the payment of social grants. SAPO will commence with the phasing in of and processes to ensure that the payment of social grants does take place without interruption on from the 1st of April, as per the agreement which we entered into with SASSA. SAPO is ready to open the accounts for SASSA grants beneficiaries from the 3rd of April. The testing of the bulk accounts opening process with a sample of 1,000 existing SASSA beneficiaries' data was seamlessly concluded already in February. The special disbursement account has the following features. For once, reading the fine print will be to your advantage. There will be no deductions. There will be 3 free cash withdrawals. There will be 1 free balance inquiry per month, 1 free mini statement per month, a free full statement covering up to a maximum of 3 months on demand, and the first free replacement card. These are the specific services that SAPO as an organ of state bring to bear in assisting and ensuring better economics for the beneficiaries. Given the participation of SAPO's Postbank in the national payment system, an increasing number of beneficiaries have also already opened Postbank accounts between January and February, exercising one of their key choices of the hybrid model. Some of those beneficiaries are already being paid by Postbank, and some were paid in March. SASSA and SAPO are starting to phase in a process where, if current SASSA pay points are within 5 kilometers of the post office branch, and there's an extraordinary audited intersection of our networks, within 5 kilometers, then the post office branch, if it meets the minimum requirements and norms and standards, will become the pay point to replace existing pay points that are out there. The integrated payment of social grants will benefit beneficiaries and is very user-friendly. SASSA and SAPO in partnership will enable the development of an integrated grant payment system that's well on track. This will be a significant milestone in the roadmap of insourcing the grant payment functions into organs of state in the very near future. The integrated payment system will also be convenient, easy to use, and accessible to all social grant beneficiaries. It will also go a long way towards reducing fraud and corruption associated with the payment of social grants through its integration with the harness system, Home Affairs National Identification System. SASSA and SAPO will continue to hold regular meetings, as we do on a weekly, if not more frequently basis, to ensure that this transition is smooth from the 1st of April and beyond. The public partnership between SASSA and SAPO represents a model service delivery blueprint for government that is easily replicable in other service sectors.
Well, South African actress Nomzamo Mbasa has challenged Africa's private sector to pull together resources and help alleviate suffering in refugee camps in Kenya. Well, she's been on a week-long tour of Kakamuma, the refugee camp in Kenya. Nomzamo, who is also a UN Refugee Agency Goodwill Ambassador for the fundraising campaign dubbed Luku Luku, says that it rests upon the continent's business people to fill the funding gap needed to help those displaced by war. Well, she spoke to our East African correspondent, Seri Kimani, in Nairobi.
At the Kakuma refugee camp in the northwest of Kenya, home to just about 200,000 refugees from South Sudan, Ethiopia, Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo, Nomzamo Mbata easily blends into the community, spending time with the refugee children inside a crowded classroom.
How are you today?
Stopping at a watering point in one of the settlements before finally settling down for a conversation on life in the camp. The stories here are heartbreaking.
Like back in South Sudan, you cannot sleep the whole night.
Because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They speak of the violence, they speak of the rape, they speak of having to fend for themselves, they speak of having to walk. They speak of having to leave their families behind, because when conflict happens and the crisis happens at that very moment, everyone separates, everyone scatters. But the most powerful thing is that everyone knows where to go for refuge. And that is, where's the nearest camp? From your village.
The ongoing conflict in neighboring South Sudan has seen the camp receive hundreds of new arrivals daily, most of them unaccompanied children. The overcrowded classrooms here are evidence of the needs of the refugee community in Kakuma.
5,000 unaccompanied minors. Imagine that number in your head. Unaccompanied, no parents, they're children, and all they know is that we need to run.
There has been a steep fall in donor funding to the camps. Last month, the United Nations Refugee Agency made a global appeal of $3.2 billion to assist both the internally displaced persons and the refugees who are sheltering in neighboring countries. The 2017 appeal was only 33% funded.
So do we want books? Yes? Yes. We want pens to write?
The shortfall in funding has forced the UN to cut down on services offered to refugees. The UN is now casting its funding net wider, seeking the involvement of the everyday African and the private sector in bridging this gap.
There's so many European private sector funders building schools in the refugee camps. I want to see African private sectors building schools in the refugee camps.
Nomzamo hopes her time in Kenya will shift focus to Africans seeking solutions to their own problem, in pushing for an end to the continent's long-running conflicts and getting Africans to stop the exodus from the continent by war-weary Africans.
Can we not fight each other? Can we fight for a better cause? And that is to change the narrative of the African. Let us change the narrative of the refugee.
Until then, the Lukuluku campaign continues. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kenya.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Well, as we celebrate International Women's Day, the issue of gender equality once again comes under the spotlight. According to the World Economic Forum's 2017 Global Gender Gap Report, gender equality is over 200 years away, and it is only by staying focused on achieving parity that the gap can be closed. While we know major challenges won't happen immediately, the good news is that across the globe, women are making positive strides towards this end. Well, global activism for women equality has been fueled by movements such as #MeToo, Time's Up, and this year's theme, Press for Progress. This theme aims to motivate and unite people to think, act, and be gender inclusive. For more on this, we are joined in studio by Dr. Amalia Malka, who is from the University of Pretoria's Information Technology Department. Very good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Essentially, let's talk about the theme of this year's International Women's Day 2018, Press for Progress, and the significance around there.
Well, there's actually two themes. The first one is International Women's Day theme being almost as a general public conveyance, largely driven by the business world and civil society. And ultimately, I'd say Press for Progress looks at a few key issues. So from a social point of view, a political point of view, an economic point of view, and a cultural perspective. The second key theme is also what's driven by United Nations Women, and that in particular is Time Is Now, looking at rural and urban activists transforming women's lives. So really, the message is the same fundamentally. It's about driving and achieving what we can do to progress equality for women. So that for me is the mainstay of the message, particularly in terms of equality in the pay scale, equality in terms of power disparity, which is what we see driven by all of these recent movements that are happening.
Now, as we celebrate International Women's Day, and speaking of the progress that has been made, what are some of the gains that have been made?
Well, I think the first thing is this is really 100 years from the original suffragettes movement, which happened in 1918. And at that point in the UK, when women did receive the right to vote, it was only to select women. Firstly, they had to be over the age of 30. Secondly, they had to have certain property rights. And if you look at it, the United Kingdom only got its first female prime minister 68 years post that, actually 61 years, in 1979 with Margaret Thatcher. So despite gaining the right to vote, it still took an incredibly long period of time for women to come in and start to become heads of states. From a South African perspective, white women received the vote in 1930, but the rest of our population only received the vote in 1994. But going forwards from that, we have to look at how we can start to collectively acquire more gains. So voting effectively is our political empowerment. The next strides we saw were in terms of rights to work, because women didn't have the equal rights to work as men did. They also didn't have equal rights in terms of the types of work that they could do. The next area is equal pay, and that is an area which is becoming more and more prominent. We saw within the journalistic space earlier in January, where the head of the BBC in China resigned over men being paid more money than women within the BBC as an organisation. So those are some of the gains, but also I'd say looking at some of the gaps that we still have to attain. Another key area is that from a South African point of view, and Africa to a large extent, is that we're driven through by a patriarchal society. So coming out of that has also been a significant movement which has been bolstered by legislation which has helped women address these issues in the home and also in the work environment.
Let's discuss the gender gaps and how pervasive they are. We do know that the World Economic Forum every single year releases a report between the gaps. Can you give us details about this year's reports and what it constitutes, if you have any?
Sure. So it's a report which is put up by the World Economic Forum every year. It covers 4 key dimensions. So the first one is economic participation and opportunity. The second is on educational attainment. The third concerns health and longevity. And then the fourth one is about political empowerment. So overall, the gender gap is at 68. Well, we've covered 68%, so we still have 32% left, and that's on a global scale. If we look at each of those dimensions independently, on the economic participation gap, and that's where I saw in your intro, we were talking in excess of 200 years, that is expected to close in 217 years if we continue at the current rate of progress, which is clearly unacceptable. On an educational attainment perspective, there we're doing a lot better. There we're expected to close the gap at 13 years, and we have already attained 95% closure of that gap. On the health side, we've attained 96% closure of the gap, but on the political empowerment side, that's also where we've got another big gap, expected to close in 99 years. Which, you know, for you and I, none of us are going to be around in those types of years, which really exacerbates the effect of we've got to start driving change a lot more quickly. On a South African point of view, I must add that from a political point of view, I think we are doing really well. If you look at our ministerial component, 15 out of 32 ministers are female.
Yeah, and just going back to what you mentioned earlier on with regards to women speaking out now about these gender gaps that we're seeing. If we look at the entertainment industry, we'll take the film industry for instance, we've seen your huge Hollywood actors, your Jennifer Lawrences speaking out at your Oscars awards and all the other ceremonies that they've been attending, addressing the gender pay gaps, and you've seen this coming now to the fore. Do you think that the presence of social media and the voice that you know, young, powerful, dynamic women have, do you think that this is it's gonna help change this?
I'd say yes, it's an aspect of it, but we also have to have a lot more than people just talking about things.
Yeah.
We have to have legislative
But now
aspects
we're
coming
aware
through.
of it. We never knew that there were these huge gender pay gaps in movies.
I think we were subtly aware of it, but not to the extent. So this is
more
where
than
we've
double
got a
is just-
disclosure.
yeah.
Absolutely more than double. And that's where, with Iceland coming through, I think it was January 2018, where they put through legislatively, it is illegal for men to be paid more than women for doing the same work.
Yeah.
And in the past, women would have to come to their employer and provide evidence of, you know, they are getting less salary than their male counterpart. But if you think about it, the employer is paying everybody in that organization. They know exactly how much everybody is getting. So now from the Icelandic bill, they're putting the onus on the employer to address pay disparity. So that is another fundamental shift.
Definitely. I would love to stay and chat. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up, but due to time, of course, joining me in studio, Dr. Amalaya Amalka, who is from the University of Pretoria's Information Technology Department, as we discuss International Women's Day 2018, its themes, as well as some of the details around the latest reports and statistics thereof. Let's take a short break here on SABC Newsroom. Do stay tuned.
Welcome to Media Monitor, the show that analyzes the big news stories that made headlines. We bring you robust discussions on stories that made headlines in the week, where we interact with media analysts to unpack these top stories. Join me every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 Central African Time as I bring you riveting news and analysis.
Stay tuned to Media Monitor every Sunday from 9 a.m.
South Africa is in need of a frank dialogue. My name is Onkgopote JJ Tabani. Join me every Sunday at 8:30 on SABC News Channel 404 as we speak to leaders of society, business and government about the state of our nation. Come now, let's talk frankly.
The Hawks in the Northwest Province have raided the offices of the Northwest Premier Supra Mahumapelo and confiscated several documents. The raid relates to allegations of fraud and corruption. 3 suspects believed linked for last month's shooting of a police officer in Kwa Mapumolo have been killed in a shootout with police. The tension is mounting in Zimbabwe as governing party ZANU-PF fights for survival. Well, your lead story at the half hour for the latest on the raid of the office of Northwest Premier Supra Mahumapelo. We are now joined by political analyst Professor Andre Duvenacher from the University of the Northwest. A very good morning to you, Professor. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Essentially, what is your initial reaction to the raid?
Morning, Shante. Yes, it is clear it is a cleaning operation and it's part of a bigger plan. And it has all to do with the context of state capture. We know that Premiers Supra Mahumapelo as well as Mr. Ismagashule are implicated in the context of state capture. And what has happened in the Free State is now playing itself also out in the Northwest Province. And it's definitely a cleaning operation against the background of allegations of corruption and nepotism. And at the end of the day, it may contribute to a form of regime change in the province. We know there are also processes within the ANC who would like to see government and regime change taking place in the province.
Well, just recently we saw a story regarding Mediosa making headlines and a random 30 million rand payout. Is this possibly related to recent allegations of those corruption charges or stories regarding the Department of Health?
We must say that the general situation in the province as far as corruption and nepotism is concerned is not a healthy situation. I believe the two cases are definitely connected, and it's part of a bigger investigation with regard to corruption, nepotism, and state capture within the context of the province.
Now, recently another scam came through of an ICT company which was allegedly given tenders irregularly. How rife is corruption in the Northwest?
Well, it is difficult to make a formal comment on that in terms of data and statistics, but I believe it is a very serious problem here in Northwest Province. I am prepared to argue that corruption and nepotism has become endemic in the province, and if Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa would really like to do away with state capture, Northwest Province and the Free State are good starting points in this regard.
Indeed. Thank you very much for joining us there, Professor Andre Duvenaka from the Northwest University there, giving us the latest on the views of the raid of the office there in the Northwest. Well, 3 SAPS employees at the Midrand police station have been suspended with immediate effect for bringing police into disrepute. Well, this after SABC News senior reporter Griselda Lewis uncovered through telephone recordings how an assault complainant was threatened with a beating when she called to make inquiries about her case.
Disgraced and bringing the police service into disrepute. 2 SAPS employees at this police station are now in hot water.
It could get worse.
This after a recording by an assault complainant, Krina Peter, who was sent from pillar to post on several occasions when she called to follow up on her case. And even later, threatened by the very police.
I said to you, what happens next? Which is a question that I would like to know.
I'm telling you that, why don't you want to listen to me? Then we'll answer after.
Wow, I'm listening to you.
That means I can't help you. You want me to help you, or you want to insult me?
I'm not.
Then I'll assault you also.
The new police minister shocked.
Yeah, it is a really sad day for the South African police, no doubt about it.
And now action swiftly taken.
One of those members who we have viewed to have conducted herself in a more serious manner than her colleague has been served with a suspension notice. We have given her a suspension notice for which she is allowed to respond within 48 hours and provide reasons as to why she shouldn't be suspended. But in the meantime, she's also been put on special leave.
Police watchdog statistics paint a grim picture. During the last 2 years, an alarming number of cases have been reported against police. And assault tops that list. While this is just but one case involving Krina Peter, but the question is, how many more others are there? Griselda Lewis, SABC News in Johannesburg.
Well, Griselda Lewis now joins us live in studio to give us updates regarding this case. A very good morning to you, Griselda. Thank you very much for joining us. Give us updates. We believe now that it has now moved from 2 to 3 officers being suspended.
Well, that's correct. Just information we've received now from the office of the Police Minister, Bheki Cele, is that 3 officials at the Midrand police station have now been placed on a suspension with immediate effect. You'd recall yesterday we reported on the 2 that had been handed suspension letters and also put on special leave. So this brings the number to 3 at this stage.
So essentially, can you confirm then that why essentially have they been suspended? What is the main reason?
The main reason, Shante, you'd recall in that expose that SABC News ran was when an assault complainant came forward with a recording of how the officers at that police station had demonstrated complete unprofessional behaviour when she had not received any feedback about how her assault case was going. She kept on being pushed from pillar to post and eventually decided to do a recording because of the constant ill treatment that she had received there. And it was at that point when she made that recording when one of the officials at the police station had threatened to beat her up. But before that had happened, you'd recall that there'd been countless times when she'd been transferred from one office to the other. So a very frustrating, clearly, a process of trying to get answers about how far her case was and when an investigating officer was going to contact her.
Indeed, it's not necessarily small, but, you know, they are bigger cases.
Yes.
And I see that this case has made its way all the way to the top. Becky Cele also getting involved. Give us his statement.
Look, Shante, without a doubt, given the fact that Becky Cele is now the new police minister, he's really going to have to show his teeth. You'd recall a spate of incidents in the country at the moment, just looking at what happened in KwaZulu-Natal, where you've got suspects arrested, allegedly linked to the killing of a police officer there. The Ingobo suspects are also appearing in court today. And you've got incidents at ground level, such as this at police stations, where South Africans are saying they're not getting the kind of service that they deserve. So one of the things that the new police minister, Becky Cele, would need to do is to try and change the perceptions of the public at the coalface of service delivery, which is at police stations. Where do you and I run to at the first sign of trouble? It's the police station. So that's where he needs to change the attitudes of some police officers. You've got close to 200,000 police officers in this country, and we're certainly not saying that all police officers behave in this manner, but it certainly does fuel the perception that there are those men and women in blue who are not prepared to do the job just right at coalface, right behind the counter, where South Africans first run to for assistance. So I think that's why the department or the ministry has taken this very seriously. We must commend certainly when a good job has been done, because it was very swift action in this particular instance. You had the Ministry of Police cooperating with the Gauteng Police Department, as well as police at local level in Midrand, to try and get some kind of justice for this assault victim.
Definitely. Now, being today International Women's Day, how could we describe the progress of acknowledging women's rights and rights against abuses in South Africa?
I would certainly say, I think, while I'm not an expert, but, you know, Shante, a lot of progress certainly has been made in South Africa to try and, you know, get women to move forward, get women to tell their own stories. And we've seen that even on the SABC platform. But unfortunately, you know, bringing it back into the context of this particular story that I covered, it really does highlight again how much more work needs to be done in respecting the rights of women to go to police stations and report about alleged atrocities that are perpetrated against them, and for both men and women who are supposed to help in this case as police to take those seriously and ensure that justice is done. Because at the end of the day, not much progress is going to be made if at the coalface of service delivery, at the back of that a police station, you do not get women like Krina Peter, whose story we told, if that is not going to be taken seriously. So while significant progress has been made, I think it's these very stories like that of Krina Peter that remind us once again that indeed a lot of work still needs to be done.
Definitely. Thank you very much for joining us here on SABC Newsroom. A very happy International Women's Day to you. We do know that the theme is behind a strong woman and against gender parity. You're definitely doing so well in your field, Griselda, as a strong, dynamic woman working in the broadcasting and media sector. Well, that's a wrap-up, at least for now, here on the SABC Newsroom. Let's take a short break. When we come back, all your sporting highlights.
I feel the real person.
And it's nutritious and delicious.
It's good. I really like it.
This celebrates being South African. We love our beer, we love our food, we love our music.
For knowing who you are going, you must know where you come from.
I'm excited to be part of this year.
For all your travel trends, catch us every Sunday, 12 midday on Channel 404.
Welcome back to SABC Newsroom. Let's have a look at your sporting highlights. We'll start with some cricket. Well, Quinton de Kock has found him, or rather was found guilty of a level 1 breach of the ICC's code of conduct in relation to bringing the game into disrepute after a dispute with Australian vice-captain David Warner that was captured on CCTV at the Kingsmead ground in Durban. Well, the Proteas wicketkeeper did not contest the charge but did try to reduce the sanction against him but was unsuccessful. Match referee Jeff Crow ruled that de Kock would lose 25% of his match fee and have 1 demerit point against his name. The team now have to refocus on the second test match, which begins tomorrow.
Warner and his teammates looked composed and confident in the nets during practice. Warner has accepted his sanction of the 2 demerits points and a fine of 75% of his match and was cleared to play. The off-the-field incident that marred the first test match has not affected Oz's team morale.
I think every time he plays for Australia, Davey's pretty fired up and ready to go. He's obviously a professional. He's been a terrific international cricketer for a long period of time, so you don't be like that if you're not at your best mentally all the time. So I don't think Davey will be trying harder than he is any other time.
The Proteas are looking to bounce back after their below-par performance at Kingsmead. It's a must-win test match if they want to win the series. And Gibson says de Kock will be focused on the task at hand.
Well, no, we appealing to level 1 because we think that Quinny didn't do anything. Quinny wasn't aggressive. I think you saw some footage, and the footage showed Quinny walking up the stairs and somebody else being restrained, and then Quinny gets a level 1. So how is that? That doesn't seem fair.
The second test match gets underway at St. George's Park on Friday. Zolani Moya, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
American sprint legend and reigning 100-meter world champion Justin Gatlin is in the country for the second meeting of the inaugural Athletics Grand Prix Series. The 2004 Olympic Games champion will compete in the 150-meter sprint at the Tuks Athletics Stadium in Pretoria on Thursday evening.
Gatlin is in the country for the first time ever. The 36-year-old has been one of the world's top sprinters since the turn of the century, and he acknowledges the strides South Africa is making in athletics.
I'm a competitor at heart, and I know these guys are definitely a competitor as well. I've watched them go from college to professional athletes and basically come into their own as professional athletes and have a name in the world stage. So I know that once we step on the line, they're not going to be half-stepping. They're going to come out there and run for themselves, but also for their country, their cities, and they're going to have a lot of pride out there. Once the gun goes off tomorrow, we'll see. Maybe we're coming down the straightaway, and I see his legs coming up the side next to me. Maybe that's when I'll know if jet lag's kicking in or not. So we'll see.
The sprinters can't wait to take to the track. It promises to be a mouth-watering event, especially the 100 and the 150 meters sprints.
The cream de la cream of SA sprinters, including Africa's fastest man Akani Simbine and the 2015 bronze medalist in the World Championships Anaso Chobodwana, as well as the president of Athletics South Africa, Alex Kosana, have assembled in the room behind me. Chobodwana will be up against Gatlin, the American sprint legend, in the 150 meters event.
The local sprinters are champing at the bit. While Simbine will be running the 100 meters race, Jobotwana will go head-to-head with Gatlin for a third time.
I'm just trying to win, execute my race as best as I can. I know how Gatlin gets out, so I'm just trying to be in contact with him so I can at least have a chance to pull away in the stretch.
Having Gatlin here in South Africa is actually really amazing for us in South Africa as well, because, you know, we get to see him run here and we get to see him run against Anaso and a couple of other South Africans. So it's going to be pretty interesting and I'm pretty excited.
The second leg of the Athletics Grand Prix series at the Tax Athletics Stadium starts at 6 p.m. Mduduzi Ndlovu, SABC News, Pretoria.
Manchester City have advanced to the quarter-final of the UEFA Champions League, but fellow English Premier League club Tottenham Hotspur are out. Juventus scored twice in 3 minutes to beat Tottenham 2-1 at the Wembley Stadium and go through a 4-3 aggregate. City qualified courtesy of a 5-2 aggregate win despite losing 1-2 to Basel in Manchester.
The first leg clash between Tottenham and Juventus in Turin ended in a 2-2 draw, so it was all to play for at Wembley. Spurs was by far the better side in an eventful first half, but Son Heung-min and Harry Kane failed to convert several opportunities into goals. Juventus, meanwhile, were denied a penalty in the 17th minute. This after Jan Vertonghen brought down Douglas Costa.
Juventus have every right to go to the referee.
The home side took the lead in the 39th minute, Son finally finding the back of the net after several attempts.
It's 1-0 to Tottenham Hotspur.
But in the 64th minute, a crazy 3 minutes followed. First, Gonzalo Higuain brought the Italians right back into the match.
Juventus have level.
And moments later, Paulo Dybala broke Spurs' hearts.
Dybala makes it 2-1 for Juventus, and all of a sudden, Tottenham, from looking very, very secure in the Champions League, are on the brink.
Spurs failed to come back from that setback. Their 2-1 loss, their first defeat in 18 matches.
They have been knocked out by last season's beaten finalists, and Juventus have come to Wembley and they have done a job here.
It's tough because until this moment, I think Tottenham was much better and was the game was under control. And but of course, that is football. Keep going, and now to try to see the future. A lot of game ahead to play, to competition, and in football you cannot stop.
In Manchester, City drew first blood when Gabriel Jesus scored against Basel after just 7 minutes. But City, who didn't play 4 of their senior players, rested on their laurels for the rest of the game, and Basel scored through Mohamed El Younousi and Michael Lang.
A spectacular finish from the Swiss veteran.
The 2-1 defeat was City's first loss at home since 2016. But they've now reached the last 8 of the European Cup or Champions League for the second time. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
And of course, that is a wrap-up of SABC Newsroom this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. We do it weekdays between 9 and 12 p.m. Until tomorrow, for myself, Shante Yankis, and the team, bye-bye.